Hello YouTube, this is Steven with On My Way to FIRE, a channel about early retirement and all things investing. And in today's video, I want to talk about the Roth IRA and the road to a $100,000 balance. All right guys, so $100,000, it's such a big number, just to hear it by itself, but it is possible to do this. And the Roth IRA, you hear it mentioned all the time, but I don't really hear a discussion on what it takes to meaningfully grow that balance and the milestones along the way and just the pitfalls that can happen as you take that time to keep investing in the account. So I want to go over a few things here. Hope this helps you out. If you do enjoy this type of content, please do give me a like and subscribe. And without further ado, let's get into it. All right guys, so for the Roth IRA, there's a yearly limit of what you can contribute, and for 2026 that number is $7,500. And so you can choose to do that on January 1st of the year, or you can do it as late in the year as the next year, which is amazing. You actually have until April tax filing deadline to fund for the prior year. So let's say I ended the year at $5,000 for the Roth on December 31st. I actually have until April 15th or whatever the tax filing deadline is to add that remaining amount of money and make it count for the prior year. So that's pretty cool. If you are over the age of 50, you can also contribute $1,100 extra as a catch-up contribution amount. So that's also pretty cool. So, as the years have gone by, when I started funding the Roth back in July of 2014, the limit was somewhere around $5,000 or $5,500. And it takes, year after year, they do the inflation reviews and they publish the CPI number. And it generally gets adjusted somewhere around $500 when they do increase it. So it's, gone up a little bit as time has gone on. And we bumped up from last year, $7,000 to $7,500 for this year. So there is a income limitation, and this is, I believe, adjusted gross income. So this is after your deductions, and that starts at $153,000 for a single filer, and a little bit higher. I think it's in the 240s, 242 for a married filing jointly. So if you earn above that amount, you cannot contribute the max, but it starts scaling down a little bit to the point of if you earn, let's say, somewhere around $400,000, you might be completely out of being able to contribute to a Roth IRA directly. There are other means to do this through a backdoor Roth, but for the purposes of this video, I just want to focus on a regular employee, not a super high income earner, and getting to that $100,000 account balance. And guys, I think the biggest hurdle for most people is going to be we have a competition for our dollars at the end of the day. After you account for regular 401k, if you're contributing to that, most people want to contribute to get the company match. So there's a couple $100 a month going away from that. Then you have your monthly bills for rent or mortgage, insurance, gasoline, groceries, activities for you, and maybe if you have kids, daycare. All these things add up. And at the end of the month, how much money do we have left? And it takes a lot of mental will to put a little bit of that extra money away in yet another retirement account. And for a lot of people, they might not want to even bother with it. They'll just do the account that gets them the match through the workplace. But that's pre-tax dollars. And in general, just the way I look at it, and I think the numbers tell you this directly, the workplace 401k, you can contribute $24,000. I think it's $24,500 this year. So you can definitely contribute a lot more money into that account, and it's pre-tax, meaning that same amount of dollars for every $100 you put into a workplace 401k, you'd probably get somewhere around $75 to $80 in your checking account because it would be taxed. And that's what makes funding the Roth so hard. You've got all these competing forces, and it's after-tax dollars. So for me personally, I did not start my Roth until July of 2014, and my current balance is $96,000. And it's been a huge milestone to get this close to the 100,000. I've seen a lot of ups and downs in this account, but I've stuck with it. And I've had some superstar performance where I've doubled, tripled, or even 10 times my money on an investment, but I've also had some losers. So it's not always perfect, but I am a little bit more of a risk taker than the average investor. So at the end of the day, it all washes out. So I think just based off contributions, I've probably contributed somewhere around $72,000. And then the rest of that is growth. And, I still have some investments that haven't really come back yet. So I expect to close out over $100,000 sometime between March and July of next year is my estimation. And, part of that's just going to be from the new contribution limit for 2027. I have approximately $800 to go to hit the limit for $7,500 for this year. And then I cannot contribute any more money. So that's really going to be the test to see how I do, in the next year based off market conditions in 2027. And this year has been a little interesting. We had a lot of problems in 2025 leading to Liberation Day, but that gave me a huge rally, that summer of 2025. And then, the market just kept doing what it does. And then this year we had another pullback in the spring, March to April, and then that bounced back really great too. So, what I try to do is fund the account with, somewhere between $50 and $100 a month. If I can, a little bit more, but it kind of comes second because I have bills. I need to keep my cash flow in order. And, then when money is freed up, I'll throw in a few $1,000s at one time. But it really just depends on what's happening in the market. And what I like to do is sell stocks for gains in my taxable brokerage account and move some of that money to the Roth, or take dividends that I get in my brokerage account and move some of that to the Roth. So it's not a perfect process. It's not always clean. And, I think of it not so much as climbing up a mountain. In reality, it's more like being stuck in traffic. And, a bad market will definitely make you feel stuck. And, you'll keep contributing money. And in a bad market, your investments go down. And you can see your balance drop even though you've invested more money. So that can be the frustrating part. But you just got to stick with it and see it through. So let's get into some more details here of, the Roth IRA. If you're starting from scratch right now, if you contributed $500 a month at a 7% return, it would take you about 10 years to get to $100,000. And, part of that is because the limit has been increased. You can contribute more than when I started. So it's taken me approximately 12 years now to get to near $100,000. And it's probably going to be about 12 and a half to 12.7 years, I guess, if you want to be precise, to get to that $100,000 amount. But, if you're younger, you have time on your side. I was 34 when I started my Roth IRA. And, a lot of it came down to managing bills and cash flow and, paying off a car. And so I still had a car payment up until 2017, I believe, was the year that I paid it off. And so the first couple years of the Roth, I only put in, I think, $1,400 the first year, and then I put in about $2,800 the second year. And my mentality was try to get somewhere around $100 a month in the account, and then in the second year, try to get around $200 in the account. And then from that point on, I believe I maxed it every year since, and I'm on track to do that now. So that goes back to the philosophy that I have of just do what you can, when you can, while you can, because if you never get the account started, you'll never have the chance to max it out. And so you don't want to be an all or nothing, mentality about it, to where I can't contribute, $600 or $700 to just get that maximum amount, on a monthly basis. I don't have that kind of cash flow. You can just put in $50 or $100 a month and just get the account started, get yourself comfortable with trading and buying stocks. And then at that point, ramp it up as your cash flow increases. Maybe you get a raise, maybe you're able to work some overtime, work that into the budget to where you put more money into the Roth. All right, guys, so here's the timeline of what it took for me to get to this number of $96,000. Now, my account, with Schwab, they want you to pay to get your old statements, so I don't have those numbers at the moment. But in December of 2024, my ending balance on 12/31 was $59,000. The next year, December of 2025, I was at $76,250. So although I put in, let's say, about maybe $8,000 or $9,000, because part of it's going to be the catch-up contribution, I wasn't able to fund it during the calendar year, but I still funded it for the year, technically. A lot of that is growth. So that was pretty cool. And here's the big number, guys. Having funded the Roth last year in January of this year, I estimate that I put in probably about $8,000 so far for this calendar year. From December 25 at $76,250, I'm now at a balance of $96,000. So nearly a $20,000 increase, even though I only put in about $8,000 or so. So, more than $11,000 is growth again for this year. And that's the meaningful thing, guys. As your account grows, so does the opportunity for that percentage to really grow with you. And that's where the account starts working in your favor and in the background. And so I did some projections, and if I continue to max out the Roth IRA, I figure by the time I'm 52 to 53, where I do want to early retire, that balance should be somewhere around $160,000, give or take. A lot of it's going to depend on what the market does in between, but I'm just going to keep on track. And then from that point, whatever that number ends up being, 150,000, 175,000, whatever, to get to another $100,000 in growth, you know, it's quite possible. You know, let's assume that I'm still working at 52, 53. I could probably get another $100,000 in that account within about 5 years or so. But if I stop working, it would take a little longer, right? Because I don't have contributions adding to that account. So, you know, here's the way I look at it though with the Roth. It's kind of like a supplemental account. It's not money that I need at the moment. I've never taken a withdrawal against it. And I've always had the goal of just keep putting in whatever little bits of money I can. You know, some weeks I put in $25. Some weeks I put in $150. You know, other times when I do those stock sales, I put in $1,500 at one time. But I try to also time it around having a goal of a stock that I want to purchase at that time, because I have the competing forces of having a HELOC where my monthly payment is based off the balance. So if I can pay more money on the HELOC and I can't find a stock that I like, I might go with that route for the time being. And then the next month, my monthly payment will be a little bit lower, and then future cash I can have go to the Roth. But it's really just about having a cash flow mindset of, you know, allocating money, you know, at any given time to the best use. And, you know, we're coming up towards the end of the year now. We're rounding out August, going into September, and time is just flying by. And so my next biggest, you know, expense is going to be property tax. And I'm going to have to pay somewhere around $1,500 between November and December. I think it's 10th is the due date. So this is the time of the year where I continue to pay down the HELOC a little bit more aggressively. I get a little bit lower monthly balance and the payments lower. And then in turn, I could save up a little bit of extra cash and get that $1,500 set aside to pay off the property tax. So the Roth IRA kind of becomes less of a priority at this time of the year, but keep in mind, we have that April filing deadline and I only have $800 to go. So quite honestly, guys, I'll probably get it funded somewhere around October to November and be totally done with it. Now, if I have a great performance on a stock, I might even get there a little earlier, but for the time being, that's kind of the timeline I'm looking at. So, you know, that's really what it takes. Now, if you're a new investor and you're younger, you really have time on your side because your tax bracket is likely lower, and even contributing a small amount like $50 a month, $50 a month, that's super low, guys. If you did that, it would take you 37 years to get to $100,000. But that's such a small amount, guys. That's $600 a year. If you're able to increase that to $1,500, $2,000, you know, and get it closer to that max, you'd get there a lot quicker, because you have time on your side of being a younger investor. And so for me, it took getting meaningful raises at work. It took improving my cash flow. It took paying off debts like a car loan, not having outstanding credit card debt, and just getting my financial house in order to where I could really take advantage of the Roth IRA and really make it a focus. And although it's not my primary focus in terms of financial goals, it's there in the background, and it's always something that I contribute to no matter what. So I hope this video was helpful. You know, whatever your number is, maybe it's 50,000, maybe it's 200,000, whatever goal you want to get to with your Roth IRA, I hope you get to it. Just stay at it, continue to, you know, work that cash flow in your budget to allow you to put that money in. And if you have opportunities to work overtime or receive a bonus, you know, try and set aside a little bit of that, somewhere between 10 and 30%. Put that into your Roth IRA. You'll thank yourself later. So with that in mind, guys, do what you can, when you can, while you can, and we'll see you in the next video. All right, bye.